Okay. All right. So first, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's here despite our short notice. We wanted to maintain the momentum that or maintain or generate perhaps momentum amongst the people who took courses who are interested in continuing both dialogue and collaboration across North America about ringing teaching and ringing education, because usually I think often it's very local. It will continue to be very local, and every tower is different, but I think we have different towers have a lot to gain from each other. So we want to try and continue that, and this is kind of to start that off. We want to especially thank everybody for attending the courses, because we know it took an investment both in time and money, especially for those people for whom the courses weren't local, who had to travel. And we ended up with a total of 43 people attending, which was terrific, and that covered 17 towers. So that's at least from a pure number perspective, that's wonderful. But we want to find out what people got out of it, how they'd like to go ahead, and so on. Given that there are not a lot of us, which is to say, what, 11 or so, I think? 14 of us. Why don't we go through very briefly and say who we are, what tower we ring at, and which course we attended. And I'll start, and then I'll use my screen and just say who's next. So I ring at Washington, D.C., and I was lucky to have a local course, so I attended the Washington course. And I'm Quilla Roth, and I'm a frequent mouthpiece for the RED team, which is the Ringing Education Development Discussion Team. That is part of working with the NAG exec to try and encourage education things. So I next have Mary.
I'm Mary Black. I ring it in Marietta, St. James, and playing hooky with practice this morning. I attended the event at Marietta on the second module, and that's it.
And I should say I attended Washington. I also attended Quebec. I forgot. So I attended 2 of the courses, which was quite interesting, because as one would expect, the mix of people causes and also the physical setup causes things to be a bit different. So that was really interesting. Eileen, is it?
Okay. I ring in Philadelphia at St. Martin's and St. Mark's, and I attended the first 2 courses, Module 1 and Module 2 in Marietta, which were wonderful. Everything was perfect there. And then I attended the last 2 courses in Quebec City, which also was wonderful. And like Quilla says, they are a little different because of the way the tower set up and just the event. I found them very interesting.
Alan.
Hi. Yeah, I ring in Houston, and I was not able to attend any of the courses, but I previously attended a Module 1 course, and I'm also a member of the RED team.
Matt.
Morning, everyone, and afternoon, David. It's Matt Austin, Kent School in Connecticut, although I try and get to Smith in New York as much as I can, once a month or so. And I attended both of Washington's modules.
Douglas.
Douglas Kitson, Quebec City, St. Matthews. and Holy Trinity. Went to both courses here in Quebec City.
Oh, well, I think everybody knows David, so I'm going to skip him. And he's already had to talk a lot, so Paul.
Hi, I'm in Washington, D.C. I attended both courses there.
Jonathan, also known as Donna McEwen.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm on my son's computer. I'm Donna McEwen from Quebec City, and I got to attend the same as Douglas in Quebec City. Fabulous, we loved it.
Let's see, Ray.
Oh, good morning. I attended the second module in Marietta and was an excellent experience. We're using what we've learned there every week, and I was glad to meet some old friends. It was great fun. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and we have a secret. If Eileen wants me to share it, I will share it at some point. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, it's up to Eileen. Now we'll see. Okay.
Something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to.
And it's not a big, huge secret because I've been sharing the news around. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to actually making it official in Toronto.
Okay. Super. Okay.
Judith.
Hey, this is Judith Smith. I ring at St. Luke's in Atlanta and visit St. James in Marietta. I attended the course at St. James in Marietta and both courses, and it was delightful.
Greg Russell.
Greg Russell, formerly New York, now Boston. Have been very active in handling instruction development for 20 years. And attended the art course in March in the UK, and then again in Boston, which I helped helped organize.
Sam.
Yeah, I'm in Boston, also at Advent, and attended said course at Advent.
And Tom.
Great. Tom Farthing. I used to ring the old fearsome bells in Chicago, which will be replaced, and I will soon ring the new bells in Chicago. I attended the both courses in Washington and in Boston and in Washington, and I'm a member of the Red Team as well.
Okay. So I had listed the questions to think about, and I heard let's see, I heard from three people who couldn't be here. Yolanda Hasselbro in Calgary, Kelly Ordine in Washington, and Charlie Halker in Marietta, who was going to attend their practice. Yolanda and Callie had already responded to some of the questions, so I can throw that in as we talk about that. So I thought, as I said, we're aiming to be maybe an hour. We don't want this to be long. And people may want to think more about questions, send written replies. I don't know, but I thought we could at least go through these and see if people have immediate things they want to say. Let's see. The first one is whether anybody has suggestions about communications options for the group as a whole, or potentially a subset of the group. If there may be people who attended the courses and they're fine with that and don't want to continue communication, but for those people who do want to keep being involved, we have the NAG CR Teach group, or email list rather, which everybody who's on this call is on. And not everybody who attended the courses has joined, but various people have. So that's an existing option. Another one that's been suggested, as I said, is WhatsApp. And the two, both Yolanda and Callie said the email worked or WhatsApp worked for them. They didn't have any particular feelings either way. So I don't know if people have other suggestions or have, I guess my question is whether to stay with the, hi Candace.
Hi, sorry, I've got computer problems, so I'm on the phone again.
Okay. So why don't, I'll come back to you in a minute. We're talking about question 1 about suggestions for group communications. I guess my inclination is we already have the email list, and if people are happy with that, that we at least start with that rather than adding a second one. But I don't know if other people have some other suggestions. So speak up if you do.
Email works for me. Okay, right. Okay, just
Right.
I don't do anything else. Okay, I'm
Okay, and Sam said that email worked for him as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think email is probably the best. Not everybody on our team has WhatsApp. I don't know how many are interested in keeping connected.
Yeah.
But I think email's good for everyone.
Well, I'll just say I check my email on a regular basis, and lots of times other things don't. They kind of slip by the wayside. So
I know that for me, I have a cell phone, but I'm not attached at the heart to it. So yeah, whereas I do tend to check my email a lot. So personally, email is probably, I'd have to change my behavior, but I could do that. Okay. So
and I do like WhatsApp, use it for a lot of groups, but I totally agree with what you said at the beginning. I mean, it more or less duplicates what you can do with email. And if most people are happy with email, it'd be silly to have a second one going. So email, yeah.
I agree. I like email.
okay. So let's see, I think for some things, this is one where we can go ahead and tell people, and clearly, if anybody feels strongly, they can let us know otherwise. And Candace, why don't you, so what we started with was saying who we were, what tower we ring at, and which course we attended if we got to attend a course, or how we're connected to this. So why don't you do a quickie in case people don't know you?
Okay, hi, I'm Candace Higginbotham. I ring at St. Mark's Cathedral in Shreveport, Louisiana. I attended modules 1 and 2 several years ago, and I had planned to be in Quebec, but my airline failed me.
As is all too common these days, I think.
It was heartbreaking. Yeah. And it notified me like 2 hours before I was due to, I was shortly leaving for the airport. And the options that I got were things like spending 7-hour layover in Houston, and then a 7-hour layover or 9-hour layover in New Jersey. And I would have been up all night, and I would have gotten there like midday. At any rate, you don't need to know all that. Sorry about that. I really hate that I missed.
So, well, so did
David.
Yeah, and being in Quebec with everybody else, we wish you were there. So
yes,
that's very. Thank you.
I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Something for you.
So then the next question was whether people are interested in trying some sort of buddy pairing. I'll preface it with, from the 2 replies that I got from Yolanda and Callie, one of them is interested in doing something like that. The other thinks that at a future point that would work, but right now is not sure that remote buddying is what would work for her. So, that's something we can talk some more with her about, but that's what I've heard so far. And people, I don't know if people want to try and, if they have questions about what we mean by buddying, or any thoughts about that. Silence.
Probably, I mean.
I guess one of the things that I wanted to say about basically both of these, the 2 things, communication, maybe it's really obvious why we want to do this, but we want to make sure that we can share ideas, talk about issues, problems, collaborate. But I think that's kind of one of the reasons of why we want to do this. And if a buddy is something you want, that's kind of where we are right now. So.
And Matt, you had something.
Whoopsie. There we go. Yeah, I was just thinking, for me, like David talked about in ANZAB, and we're familiar for us, our geographic spread means that I know for me, having something like a buddy through the North American Guild would make it just a little bit easier to get over that hurdle of making sure I get up to, I don't know, Quebec or down to Washington, or coming out to Chicago on a more regular basis, and touching base with my buddy, observing some practices, talking through some things, having them watch something I do, and as an instructor, I'm all for, I would love to have people in my tower telling me what they think of what I'm doing and watching them instruct students, so I'm learning something. So that sort of nudge, I would be on board. I'd sign up.
It's for the nag aspect, as in lowercase nag.
Yes, absolutely. The verb, not the noun, though.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's interesting, because in your case, it would be a remote buddy. So it's sort of, just different perspectives on what can work. Anybody else have any?
I've been kind of informally doing a lot of buddying over the years, and mostly face to face, but occasionally a little bit long distance with occasional visits, and more recently, in the last 9 months or so, a little bit of remote. And I'm happy to do more.
Anybody else?
Yeah, originally I thought just a chat group would be good, but I love Matt's idea of having visitors, because we don't get that many in the direction of Quebec. So anybody who'd like to come and give comments, we always welcome open-armed. So I think that would be good. I mean, there are several of us in the tower who teach, some who have done it maybe longer than others. But as we saw with David's examples, there are always things to tweak and things to do slightly differently, which, so yeah, I think I would be interested.
Anybody else?
I just want to say, I think I'd be interested in it in a few years. Right now, St. Luke's is kind of obsessed with our recovery stage, trying to build up our band. So that's sucking up all the energy. And but hopefully we will get somewhere with that. And then in a couple of years, we'll be ready to expand. So,
Okay, and that the recovery stage may actually feed into later, some of the later questions
yeah.
that are here. So, yeah, okay. And there may be people who will respond to you with suggestions. Don't be surprised if some people say, oh, but now is actually the perfect time to have a buddy. So
good.
they may, don't be surprised. Let's see, who,
Oh, so actually I had one other comment on Buddy, and that was that, is it maybe, should we talk about practical considerations at this point? Or I guess we need to think about, if you want a buddy, how does that work? And I guess one of the things that occurs to me is, if you want a buddy with somebody, ask. I think that's a way to do it. We could do something a little more formal, but I think that might be one of the best ways to do it. So I just want to put that out there.
And either ask us or ask them.
Yeah, ask whoever you want. Yeah.
I mean, you can ask us to help you find a buddy, or if
Yep.
there's somebody you want a buddy with, just ask them directly.
I want a buddy.
I just have a comment for Judith, and it has just to do with my personal experience. So David and Quilla were working with a new student that we have in Quebec City less than a week ago. And then when we were in the tower a couple of days later, we had to review before we remembered exactly what to do in all the steps, even though, we had been doing things in our own way, but we had to review. So I would just encourage you to think about doing it sooner than later, as Quilla mentioned.
Oh, yeah. I see book study in my future. So.
How many people from Marietta were at the Marietta course?
Well, Judith is in Atlanta at St. Luke's, is what she's talking about, rather
I'm
than
sorry.
Marietta.
That's what I meant. Okay, rephrase the question. How many people from St. Luke's were at the Marietta course?
2 of us, which was almost
2 of
all
you.
of us. So
Okay.
You have
So
a
you've kinda
built-in
got-
buddy.
So
You've got built-in buddies.
yeah, you may get the 100% award.
no, we're the
Oh, well, Matt, okay, Matt.
67% award. So.
Okay.
Well, may I say that the something that was mentioned there as one of the benefits of buddying is it actually encourages people occasionally to go and visit some of the towers that don't get visitors very, very often, which is true. But is that particular problem something that can also be solved by, I don't know if it would work in North America, but occasionally hosting gatherings for a particular purpose, like I don't know,
Well, we
really
used to-
consolidate your plain gold minor, or let's do some surprise
Right,
wagering,
yeah.
or, whatever
David,
the topic is.
David,
It isn't really connected with the teaching group particularly necessarily.
right. David, we did that quite a few times. We had a Stedman workshop. We had a London workshop. Actually, I think Marietta was the host for those 2. But that's an excellent idea, and that should really be pushed forward more, to have different things. I'd like to see some conducting workshops for aspiring conductors.
So, yes, those are things that are on the list of.
It's on the back burner at the moment.
Well,
I
they're
think.
on, yeah, I mean, they're certainly on the list of things that Red has been talking about as, so follow-ons that are not art specific follow-ons, that are really North America driven. And it may be, strangely, it may be that people are actually more willing to travel now than pre-COVID as a reaction to it, because I'm wondering, I mean, we had, there was travel as part of these courses. A lot of people didn't have to, and when people talk about the travel industry, there's a lot going on. So generally society seems to be traveling. So it may actually be a good time for us to start looking at that, rather than a bad time. Okay. One of the things about buddying two things that occurred to me, which I guess, well, I didn't mention here, are how does buddying work if you're not teaching? Is there still something you can gain from buddying? And also, maybe we may send out something to everybody, or at least to those people on the teach list, saying, tell us yes or no, and just get a vote so that we know people who are interested and who don't speak up, because I think some people are still thinking about it, and we may want to, we can send them the stories from those people who have successfully buddied and said, here's why you should do it too, and here's what I get from it. So we may do something like that. Okay, then the third item was specifically about the courses that you had attended, and this is kind of, don't want to spend a lot of time, but the question was, were there particular things that you think went well, and perhaps more important, are there suggested improvements? Now, presumably you already put some of that on your evaluation forms, but those really go to David and Art.
So could I interrupt at that stage? If I can interrupt, I have gathered all the feedback forms. I did send them immediately after each course through to Art, and built up a spreadsheet of the whole lot, which is the scores everyone gave and a summary of the comments, particularly if they were critical. I don't mean nasty critical, I mean constructively critical comments are the more interesting ones. My flight back to UK got a bit muddled up, and I've really only just surfaced again. I have just emailed that to Eileen, I think. I asked Art, because technically they're theirs, may I do that? I haven't forwarded them to everybody, because I feel the slightly more proper thing is to give them officially to the North American Guild, and then it's up to Eileen and the Guild to, if you don't choose to circulate to everybody or what, that's entirely up to you. But I don't think there's any sort of privacy or secrecy or anything. The actual physical ones, they are in Donna's living room somewhere, because that's the last place I was before I left.
Okay, so we can do a surreptitious dive into Donna's living room and try and find them. But
I think the summary sheet pretty much gives you everything you want. But
no, I would guess so. So I guess the question is, does anybody, from my perspective, being biased, I'm more interested in suggestions that people have, particularly if there are suggestions for Red and Nag, as opposed to like David and Art, about things that might make them better. So if people have anything they want to just voice briefly, and as I said in my email, we're happy to have you send us stuff by email that we can then kind of consolidate and pull together. So if anybody has anything they want to say, terrific, and if not, we can move on. So we have a moment of restful silence. Oh, Matt, again, with his, I love the yellow hand, the golden hand.
Yeah, I'm in classrooms all the time. I'm
I
used to
know.
raising my hand.
Yes, Mr. Austin.
Does it elevate my little screenshot to the top left of your screen when you do it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, catches your attention.
Yep.
So the two things that jump to mind for me are, with all due respect to David and Pip and Art and all of that, I think a good half of the benefit of it was simply getting 10 or 12 of us together for a day or a day or two. Around here, we just don't get to do that much. The other thing that I was wondering about, and I didn't put this in my feedback because I didn't think of it till a week later, David, was whether there's a space in there for maybe a half an hour or an hour of instruction of real students, I think about the people who were just stepping into teaching, and some of them were pretty nervous. And of course, we were playing the roles of students. And of course, you were nervous if you had Quilla as a student. But because Quilla is the best actor of all of us. But it's still not the same as, stepping up to someone. And the idea that you could do that, you could start instructing students with, Paul or Alan or Eileen next to you as your mentor in your first, tentative steps into, instructing things, and having a second set of hands there, which you might not have in your tower, someone that you feel is a master teacher and could step in at a moment's notice if there were an emergency, in a way that you might not yet be comfortable with.
As you know, I'm not a great spokesman for art whatsoever, and I will pass on criticisms much more than anything else. But I think the answer to that one is that the courses are inevitably, you can't really run more than a day. I'm thinking about the UK limitations. All of us are more used to traveling and being there for a couple of days or a bit longer. But in UK, no, it is very much going there from somewhere within a 20 or 30 mile radius, which the UK thinks is a very big distance. Attending for a day and going home again because it's cheaper. They often have as many as 20 people on a module, which I think is ridiculous. I don't know how you possibly do it that way. You're bound to finish up lecturing much more than participating. But the real point is that if you actually have an actual student to do anything, you have to do it at sort of real teaching speed, and that's very much slower, and it just isn't time. But I do think as a sort of first follow-up thing, that is a very good thing to do, organized by the tower or by the group or what have you, with real students where you have got a bit more time and can do it so a bit more slowly. If that happens anywhere, please let me know, because we'll let Art know. There are people in Art who are very receptive to any sort of suggestions or comments at the moment, so that would be good.
Way back when we ran the integrated teacher training scheme, which was from the education committee, when they were called committees from the central council, and we ran one also when it was in Atlanta and Marietta, and we did have what we called guinea pigs, for lack of a better word, where they were brand new recruits, and some of it worked and some of it didn't, but we were running in 2 different towers at the same time, and we had 4 instructors working, so it did work to some point. But I think someone hurt a finger. I mean, these are real things that's going to happen when you're working with a new recruit and brand new teachers. So
it was also 2 days.
It was yeah, exactly. It was just one teaching handling, so it was a little different. But there's no reason why we couldn't, as North American Guild, go back to something like that with a lot of planning.
It's worth mentioning that Art has on occasion run an M1, I think, I don't know about an M2, that spans 2 or 3 or 4 days. We offered it as part of the Northwest course that's coming up in a few days' time. Those courses do get real students in precisely because there's more time. They're not very popular. We got no takers for the M1 that we offered as part of the Northwest, whereas everything else is either full or completely overflowing in terms of students, not in terms of helpers.
I was just going to say,
we did one. We did one of these in New York 15 years ago, and it was, I think, moderately successful, but much more challenging than any of us expected it to be, I think.
I was just going to say, I was able to watch Quilla and David working with one of our new learners, and perhaps that would be a midway point between people off the street, as happened in Atlanta to the courses Eileen was talking about, and having someone like Quilla pretend to be a student. Maybe I found it very useful watching David give our learner, who I think had only had 3 handling lessons. I found it very useful to see him go through the techniques. So that might be a possibility, but it's a bit luck of the draw if one has a student at that level.
Right. Well, Greg, did any of those new recruits stick with it?
Yes.
Good.
In New York? Yeah.
Right, the one that, yeah,
I mean, both teachers and students.
great.
We had, I think we had 4 guinea pigs and 3 of them stuck with it. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly who they were, so I don't remember exactly which of them stayed. We
Okay.
definitely had one that did not continue. Another thing that I would do differently if I were to run one again is I would not get 4 absolute newbie guinea pigs. I would try to get one new person, one who'd have 2 or 3 lessons, one who'd have 5 or 6 lessons, right? And one who was kind of just barely ringing on their own, but still needed a little bit of coaching. And then you
Right.
could kind of cover the whole gamut, within a single day.
I'll just second that. I'm still hearing some negative comments from the trainer in Atlanta. And so I think working with newbies was not a good idea, and it'd be better to work with people who had some investment, and who were a little more prepared to roll with the punches. So
What was training the trainer?
yeah,
It's what
The
Eileen
training-
was talking about.
yeah, the one in Atlanta that I
Oh, the
like.
ITT. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the situations they talked about, I could, it was one of those like, I thought to myself, I could see myself making that kind of mistake. So it was just, I think, it was a good idea that perhaps didn't work out as well as it should have. So.
And that mentioned there that the 2 things that I found most valuable in the whole month was firstly actually being assessed by Quilla. I know we were all role-playing people, playing role-playing, role-playing. But actually, as a teacher, to have someone there constructively criticizing what you're doing is extremely valuable, not as any role play, just entirely as it was. The other one was the Boston, was it the Friday practice, Sam, where you had about 5 students and 7 teachers?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that sort of thing before, and I think that is excellent, not merely in getting concentrated teaching through to the students, but in getting the teachers to interact with each other and with the students. And I just think it's altogether a very sensible thing to do. Why isn't it done more often? It's great.
And I guess it's not done more often because there aren't the number of teachers is the main reason. Yeah, I'm guessing, but yeah, that works very nicely. Okay.
Let's see, can I jump in just a moment? Right. We teach at least 16 new people every year here at University of the South, because they get some course credit for it, and so they sign up for this. Some of them stay. Okay. What has worked well for us is taking how many years ago was that at Atlanta, where we had a marathon sort of teaching day? That it works really well up here, but then I have 3 other people who are quite capable of doing some teaching once they can manage tail stroke and hand stroke. Okay, we sort of pass them down the line. Okay, and they in a week I have people who can ring both strokes without harm to themselves or to others or to the bells. And so it is anybody we welcome to come here if anytime first part of the semester and help us out would be really nice. Out of that, I get several students who will join the band. Okay. It's very helpful for my ringers who already, as they come along and are quite competent, to begin to help out new people. They learn some, I don't know, they become more confident in themselves, and it's very helpful to have them help me do some work. It's it's an interesting program we have up here. Anybody's welcome to come to Swanee. We're out of the way and it's hard to get here, but it's a lot of fun. So anyway, I don't know how you guys would feel about that, but it works well for us. I've had very few, 3 or 4 incidents, but my comment to all the new students is I will not let you get hurt, and I will not let that happen. And overcoming their fear of handling this big bill, is a major hurdle to begin with. There are a number of ways we start. Anyway, thank you all. So it was such a wonderful experience. The second course, I have one more thing. If you ever get to it, and since I'm talking, I will put it on, is I need some instruction in how to move people into competent method ringing. And we're almost there. I'm determined to ring a touch of plain bob doubles sometime this next year, and trying to move people from hunting into the mindset. It's a mental game for them. It's not a physical game. They can handle everything. But that's where I need some help, is how do I move people into method ringing? I find it very a mental challenge for most folk. Anyway, I will be quiet.
I think that's a good question to put on the email group. See what replies you get.
Yeah, following the weekend in Boston, we actually kind of reset one of our learners who's been working on Plain Bob for a while, and basically just started doing a lot of work with Bisto in order to get them to practice, dodging up, dodging down, making long fists.
We do right. We haven't ever done Bisto. I'll have to give it a go. We've Basto we can manage, and we can do a plain bob minimus. I don't know what happens when I add a bell. It's just, to me, it's way easier to ring doubles than it is minimus, because I have this wait time when I'm ringing seconds or when I'm just hanging out in long fifths, So anyway, we're playing on minimus.
The Bisto doubles was working nicely because you don't have to think about what your next work is. You always dodge in 3/4. You always lie behind.
Okay.
And so they can work on them. They can get the mechanics to be second nature.
Right.
And then they can worry about what the order of work is.
No, yes. Well, the mechanics they've got down. It's trying to get their brain to work. So what am I doing now? But Bisto might be the solution. Thank you.
Oh, I highly recommend learning where you pass the trouble then.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. All of those are difficult things to learn, apparently, for some people.
Yeah, they sure are. Lots of standing behind helps.
I don't have enough people to stand behind.
You don't have a plain bob doubles band?
Not regularly, no. When students come back in the fall, I will have that. All right. But right now, this summer, we're minimus people. Okay.
Yeah.
In the summer, we have. Am I muted? I don't know if I'm unmuted. No,
we can hear you.
I am in the summer. We have maybe 900 people in town. Okay, so there's. Okay. Right.
So it's where we should all come if we want a quiet time.
Oh, yes, you are always welcome to Swan. We will find a way to put you up. You can get here. Okay. All right. So you're always welcome to Swanee.
Swanee's always worth visiting on any excuse. So
It is.
Definitely.
Okay, so we were on 3, what went well, suggested improvements. I think we kind of segued into if people had questions from the courses. So there's more, I would say there's more conversation that can go on, but we'll move on today. And the number 4 was, would you like Red and NAG to offer additional classes if so, covering what areas and what topics? And what I think I heard was some interest in having additional classes, and it would be nice to hear from a variety of people of what they think would be useful, either as an individual or for their band. And that's something we can certainly ask the broader group. But if people want to say anything specific right now about what class, I mean, Ray already has about conducting and teaching methods. So that's at least, which are two, in some ways, I think of them as not quite adjacent. You know, it's teaching methods and then conducting. The students are at different levels for those two, certainly. Okay. Anybody else have anything on that? Okay, then the next was, are there specific ways that you feel like RED or NAG organizationally can support you and your tower in, well, ringing education kinds of areas? That, and I suppose areas other than what we've already talked about, because we've already talked about trying to put together courses in regional or national or whatever that people can attend. So other ways that you think we could perhaps offer some more support?
I don't know if this would work, but Tom Farthing and I tried once to ring simultaneously, and we were successful between Chicago and we could do that, but it didn't work out as well as we thought. But what
Yeah,
would be
I'd like to take another shot at that because I think we
yeah,
could.
so would I, Tom. And wait till my kids come back. It wouldn't work out last
Okay.
spring. The
Great.
scheduling was just awful. Have to do it early in the semester. It doesn't work otherwise.
Okay. Very good.
Anyway, the what my band and the campus here has never heard is consistent good striking. Okay. And any folk who'd like to come visit here for a weekend and help those of us who can strike well, let the campus know what this really could sound like. We're doing better, but we're not doing as well as I would like. Or any band who'd like to come spend the weekend here, you are just welcome. We'll find a way to feed you and put you up. But what we're missing is hearing good striking at a good tempo, because at a good tempo it's just exciting. It's just wonderful sound, you know.
You're very right. You're very right.
So I have a clarification question. When you say ringing simultaneously, do you mean, I'm taking that to mean that there was in essence a practice in Chicago and there was also a practice in Sewanee, and you sort of took turns observing
No,
each other?
we could ring with ringing room.
Oh, with ringing room.
We could
Okay.
We could
With
ring simultaneously with the ropes, ringing room. We couldn't see each. You know, our people are more used to seeing than hearing. But anyway, but it's it would be. It's possible. It's possible. I just let you guys know it's a possibility.
Yeah, David.
We certainly, one of the practices that we sort of lost during COVID became a ringing one, and that's now continued permanently as a once a fortnight. And as it happens, we get people from, there are 2 or 3 people from UK who regularly attend. We normally have 6 to 8 people all up, and that works extremely well. Not just for practicing and the level of practice. I mean, sometimes it's someone who's a keep beginning and we do plain hunt. Sometimes it's some more complicated method and we're trying to ring 2 in hand or whatever. but there's a lot of chat as well. But they're very sociable occasions, and it just helps people. What you're saying, keep people in touch with each other and feel that they're not isolated.
David, this is Ringing Room, correct?
Ringing Room.
Okay.
You can, with a proper setup, you can use Ringing Room while you pull the ropes. I mean, you can actually ring your bell. We're not just tapping on the computer. We're actually ringing with each other. But it's an experiment and it worked. Okay. And so, but it takes a little technical back. It takes ask Tom how it works. Okay. Because
Should I pop in now, or you want to tell me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, brief.
Well, okay,
brief,
so
and
let
then
me-
you can
let me-
send a longer one.
Yeah,
Well,
all right.
ma-
Let me take a shot.
maybe that could be a topic for a follow-up though. And I was just gonna suggest.
Yes,
I had put
That's a
couple
great
of-
idea. Yeah, I do like that because it was really a wonderful experience to, we could do a lot better on the technology, but to have the two college groups actually see each other and say, oh, there's other people that do this. It was just really fabulous. So both Sewanee and Chicago have simulators. So they have sensors on all the bells. And if you do that, then there's software, some actually kind of specialized software that somebody in England wrote, that will take that sensor input and feed it into Ringing Room. So you can have 3, 4, 5 different locations, all with their sensors connected to a computer, and the computer's connected to the internet and onto Ringing Room, and it's entirely possible. It takes a level of training for the ringers, I think, to say, okay, first to realize it's possible, then to actually do it well. And I think we kind of realize it's probably possible, and now we got to work on doing it well.
Yes.
But that's entirely possible and a lot of fun. And it really opens up a lot of great opportunities for a geographically dispersed group to ring together. It's wonderful. So just like Ringing Room is offered that with handbells, and but you can do it with tower bells as well. It works. Do it.
Okay.
So I wasn't when
We're losing you, Greg.
suggested.
Greg?
Greg, you're dropping out.
Not good. Okay.
Better.
Does that help at all?
Try again. Start over. Yeah.
I was going to suggest this agenda item would be where my brainstorming would fit best, and maybe it would help stimulate some more discussion and ideas on this agenda item number 5. Well, and 6, 7, and 8. Could I put these slides up?
Yeah, we got that.
I'll check. Here we go. So basically, I just wanted to, can people see this slide?
Yeah.
Yep.
And basically I got one for handling the M1 section, one for the M2 section. And these are just, I threw up a bunch of ideas and wanted other people to throw up ideas. If people think that it would be useful to have additional Zoom calls with particular topics. And so these are topics that I thought, would make, it can be a 10-minute, 20-minute, half-hour, full hour, depending on the depth of the topic and what people want to do with it. So this is the first set. And if people just want to jump in and say they think something is a good idea or a bad idea, and I don't think I can edit them in real time, but I can take, Alan's taking notes, or additional ideas that they want to contribute. And this is specifically what we could do with additional Zoom sessions. And I don't want to discourage additional discussion about what we can do face-to-face or over email or through buddying or whatever. One topic that's dear to my heart is making teaching less scary, both for the teacher and the student.
Yes, I agree with you. I am as anxious as the student when we first begin. It is, people do weird things, strange things. It would, I don't care what you said. It's like they don't listen or something. It's frightening. About the first several strokes is really frightening. It would be nice to get together and share some teaching ideas. I could write them down, but because there are a number of things that have worked for me in the past, I'd be happy to share with them.
Perhaps one of the things that we can do as a group, I don't know how we would do this yet, but with this list of topics and others that might be proposed, can we as a group vote on them or rank them somehow and figure out what we might collectively want to go with? I mean, there's a list, right? But which ones do we like? And like I said, it's, I think, some sort of voting mechanism, but I don't know what that would be right now.
I'll send this out to the whole email list in a way that's easier to edit, and then we can just brainstorm over email.
And like Alan says, you could prioritize which ones are more of interest to people.
Yes, absolutely.
We've talked about having topics like this at online gatherings, and I think that would work out really well.
That's exactly what I was thinking too, Tom. That's exactly what I was thinking. Because some of these would be really good topics for that.
Actually, one that you could add would be a remote striking competition with the technology that Tom was describing earlier. That's a possibility.
Or even just with video. I mean, we can do a remote striking competition as long as the judges can hear the actual ringing. That's a neat idea.
It'd be more fun in person. It'd be a lot more fun in person.
It would definitely be more fun in person, but to get a whole team to travel to a place can be expensive. So this work is another thought.
I'm going to note that it's after 11, so we've been an hour, just if anybody had time limits.
Thanks, Quilla.
So just so people are aware.
I would mention in terms of, I mean, we do striking competitions where people record something in their own tower and send it off in that sense. I don't think if striking is good, you always get internet glitches, which are different things to different people. So any sort of serious competition which involves internet connections, I think is not going to work because the internet glitches will upset the striking.
Mm-hmm.
North America doesn't really have serious striking competitions at all.
Yes, we do.
I mean, if you call it a striking get together or something like that.
Yeah, I would disagree too, Greg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it seems like we've kind of merged at least 5 and 6, maybe 7, so 5 was how can we support your tower, 6 was what problems can we help you solve, and then 7 was what resources would be helpful. I guess people haven't talked about resources other than people, pretty much. So conceivably there are other, I don't know if there are books or pointers to reference material or stuff like that, or other kinds of things I can think of. And
I have a question about resources then. And once again, I have not attended any courses in recent times. So is there a need for first day lesson plans? Did you come out of the course and you knew how to teach? Of course you don't, but what do you need? And lesson plans is one of the things that I thought of, but I don't know what was done there. So people that were there can talk about that.
I think I'm actually arranging to assess someone at the moment. The whole point of being a teacher is that you don't teach the same subject over and over again. You teach different peoples on different days.
Yep.
And teaching plans must be geared at the specific person you're teaching. So generic teaching plans are very limited, let's put it that way. If you've got someone who hasn't got any idea how to tackle anything, a sort of generic teaching plan will work. But ultimately, a teaching plan is specific to you, the particular day, and the particular person. On the subject of resources, I think whoever said that the human beings are the most important resources hit the nail right on the head. There are a huge amount of resources on the ARC website, far too many. It's too difficult to find anything. I think a very good use of the chat email thing is if you find something that happens to work for you and you think, gee, this is really useful, tell everyone about it. It's much better to follow someone's recommendation, go straight in and say, here is a particular resource that has been recommended to me and have a look at it, rather than just floundering through. It's true of all resources. You know, the internet's so full of stuff. Just sort of floundering through in the hopes that you'll find something that works for you is tricky, to say the least.
Thank you.
I think this is one of the other things that's quite helpful about having a buddy or a mentor, or well, actually having a network of people that you talk to and exchange ideas with.
We're trying to be kind of a super network of which then individuals will form sub networks, probably is what some of what we're hoping with follow on to the courses. Okay, I think anything else that anybody wants to say?
I've found these packets that I don't know if everyone got these, but I ended up with a set of them. There's a whole bunch of them.
I think they're for the tower.
Yeah.
But you can purchase them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think having some sort of way that we can distribute those more freely than them just living in the tower, or like, you know, hey, take this one piece of paper home and look at it kind of thing. Having a way for people to have a set of their own would be valuable.
They can
I've been
purchase.
reading
They
a
can
lot.
purchase them.
Did you buy that, Sam?
No.
No.
Went to the tower.
Each tower got one.
Fantastic. Okay.
So yeah, having that available is valuable.
Yeah, something.
If you do want those, do bear in mind that from Ringing World's point of view, and your point of view, postage is a significant extra. So getting someone to do your private shipping for you makes a huge difference to the cost.
Well, I'm going to be in the UK for the Central Council meeting. I'd be more than happy to bring some things back for anybody that wants some resources. So let me know. Sort of we don't have book service anymore, but I can surely help with some of that.
So Sam, something also that you might have, if there's somebody interested in doing this, you can have somebody set up a sign out kind of, you know, here's our library and sign out things.
Right.
So because they're not expensive, but they're not cheap.
Yeah.
I think they're like £25 for is that right? That sounds too cheap for the whole set. I can't remember. It may be more than that. But somebody can check. So it is something that people can buy their own. Ringers are, reputation seems to have been true that we're very cheap. So, you know, whether people will, but maybe, you know, or a group of people could buy one set to share amongst them, maybe. And Eileen, when you're going in September?
I'm going the end of August. I leave August
So
27th. So
Sam, find out who'd be interested and get the information to Eileen.
All right.
Sam, I have 2 copies of it. I think one of them is in the Advent Tower already.
Yeah, that's why I have this set. Okay.
But we may have enough sets for Boston. We'll see who else wants them.
If other people did not get them, have not played around with them, looked through them. There's a ton of content. It's
It's
interesting, useful stuff.
wonderful.
Well,
Very
we
good.
also have funds in our rope fund, and we could buy additional copies if people are going to be using them.
For what it's worth, of course, I paid registration, which I'm not interested in getting back. I mean, you know, but I would like to have the books that were used for the courses, because the ones I have from 2015 are kind of I'm assuming that maybe there's been a little bit of change since the first course in Philadelphia that we had, and the module 2 in 2015. So if there's any way to get those, I'd like to have them.
Candace, I'm going to be checking. So the people who took mod 2 didn't get books, and
Some handouts, right?
Just wait. So people who took mod 2 didn't get any books. I'm going to check with everybody, I mean, who took only mod 2. I'm going to check with those people to find out which of them want books. I will include you on the list. We're going to aim to get this information to Eileen. People will have to pay for them because in mod 2, because there wasn't, I mean, some amount, because there wasn't a charge, but anybody who took both courses had them, and we can certainly add you to that list.
Okay, thanks.
And work with, you know, the registration stuff. And to answer Alan's question, no, these are David Smith's education column information, you know, that have been reprinted in a very nice format, as Sam showed you, and they come in envelopes and have lamination and stuff, and are the nice thing about them, if people haven't seen them, or in my mind, one of the nice things is there's a progression, there's an overall topic and a progression through it that's essentially done 1 page, sometimes 2, I guess, or 1.5 of the ringing world at a time. So it's in one could say the whole part whole. That there, you know, you can do it in chunks. You don't have, you know, it's not like, oh my God, here are the 500 things I need to do to ring Cambridge Minor. Or to learn it and ring it. And it puts things in a very manageable kind of way. So they are a really nice resource, which David brought to give to each of the towers, which was really generous.
Right. It's great. I mean, you could have read it all in the ringing world, but they were in bits and pieces. Now it's all put together, very lovely. And like Quilla said, it's really clear and it's excellent. I have a set that we ordered, and I guess I should take them into one of the towers and bring back another set for the other tower, which I will do. Oh my, I guess I need another suitcase. But I don't carry.
Can I make a practical suggestion in terms of orders? What
Sure.
happens with us is certainly before the art conference and before the Central Council AGM, which is coming up now, Jill Hughes for art, and sometimes also Will Bosworth for Ringing World, does get in touch with us and just remind us, do you have any orders? If so, please let me know. And it really helps them to know several weeks in advance so they can get it packed up and bring it to somewhere where you can collect it. But having that as a sort of a regular occurrence twice a year is a really useful reminder.
That's
Thank
good
you.
point.
Yeah.
Good point, David. So if I know ahead of time, I will write to, you know, Will or Jill and make sure they bring what the group NAG needs and purchase them and bring them back. And then somehow distribute them, and maybe some of the people will be at the Toronto AGM and can pick them up there, which would save them more postage.
Eileen, one of the things that I'll make sure you have is anything that's like for art course, like if we're saying that module 2 folks should have had all the books, right, and we didn't give them to them. There is art course pricing available to us. And I think we should be able to leverage that. And I'll make sure you have that information when you place your order.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. And I have a relationship with Jill, so I can also make sure she does us a good deal.
Okay, we probably well, we can keep going, but I'm going to pretend we're going to wrap up and say a couple of things. So as we've said, we're already planning to have some session or sessions at future online gatherings where, because the AGM is in late September, the next online gathering will probably be in January or February, because November and December get really funny. It may be that there'll be a groundswell to have some a Zoom session with a topic from Greg's list or add-ons to that before then. And if so, we'll tell people. At the AGM, we don't know when yet, but at some point on Saturday, there will be a Q&A and gathering in person for people who were in the courses, who want to come to that, and for people who weren't in the courses who want to hear about or to get information. So that's FYI, there will be something at the AGM. I will send, I hope, my last email to all course attendees saying, remember, if you want to continue this conversation, sign up for the email list. And at that point, after that, we'll start using the nagcr.teach for most communications. That will include some people who are already on the list who were not at the courses, but expressed, were on the list because they were interested in teaching. So we will lose some of the people from the courses because they have sort of self-eliminated themselves by not stepping forward. But I think that's fair, because not everybody wants to continue all of this. They don't have the time or whatever.
I've got to go in a minute. So can I make one comment, which is that in talking to Simon Lenford earlier, he said he wouldn't write anything in his blog, which is fairly widely read, about the exercise we've just been through, because it wasn't really Central Council and it wasn't really any of his business, blah, blah, blah. I see it's just been published and he's relented and has.
He did, and I just wrote back to him because I don't know if you're going to say this, his one sentence said that we flew you over. Which makes it, I infer that it looks like we paid for your transportation. So I wrote back to him, but I got a out of office message.
Yeah, I wouldn't, quite a few errors, I wouldn't worry too much. But
No.
the point I was going to make is also that this is what Matthew Sorrell, my predecessor as ANZAC president, said to me when I took over, that, don't ever assume that somehow ANZAB, and the same is true, NAG is a sort of poor relative, and ringing is basically an English thing, and we're sort of add-ons that don't matter very much, don't really know what we're doing. The truth, I didn't really believe him at the time, but I've discovered that it is true. The truth is that I'll say ANZAB rather than NAG, because I know it better, but ANZAB is very highly regarded in the UK. It's one of the societies that works well. It does things differently, sometimes, not always better, but differently. And a lot of the UK societies feels that they've got a lot to learn from us. I mean, one of the things is the comment that if you come to Australia, there's one website that shows you absolutely everything about every town. In UK, that just is completely unknown. But an awful lot of the problems, precisely because we're smaller and a bit different and have worked things out differently and have got different demographics and different history, we are different, and you can learn from people who are a little bit different. So can I just say to everybody, I'm sure you are, but be proud of being bell ringers who are not part of the English community. We're different, we're respected, and actually in many ways we're better. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
You're right. I agree, David.
Okay. Thank you, David. I'm glad. Thank you for taking time in your next, preparation for your next exciting teaching engagement. Thanks for taking time to join us. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much for looking after me so well. It was an absolute delight. if you hadn't done that, I think it would have been an absolute nightmare. So thank you very much. And I will disappear at this stage. I've got the next meeting started. So,
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
So,
Quick question, Quilla, you laid out the timeline for the AGM and the next online ringing gathering. I was just curious, is there some sentiment about when people would like to have a follow-up Zoom meeting? Do people want to do that in October timeframe and wait for the January timeframe? What do people want? Who would like to do something in an October timeframe?
Well, maybe that could come out, maybe that we could set up a little poll or something with everybody that's on the lists.
I don't understand, Eileen.
I think set up.
We're only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people that
Right.
aren't on the red team here.
But if everybody here said they didn't want to talk again until January, that would be helpful information to have.
Well,
And
that's true.
that's not the impression I'm getting. So
That's true too.
October sounds like a reasonable time frame to float for the larger group as well.
Tom, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm just raising my hand to Greg's question about meeting in October.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
That was originally I suggested an OGR when we talked about it for October, but that didn't fly real well at one point.
Well,
But
an OGR involves more than just
yes, that's true.
So it's easier to schedule a Zoom session perhaps than a whole OGR with all of the setup and ringing. And you may get more people for one Zoom session than 3 hours of ringing and sessions. Okay. So
Go back
there's,
to Greg's question.
pardon?
What did Greg get an answer for his
Oh
question?
yeah, we had a I don't know, 5 or 6 people raise their hands, I think.
Yeah, as with anything, it depends on when it gets scheduled and stuff like that, what's possible. But yeah. Okay, so that's something the red team at its next meeting can talk about, scheduling a next Zoom possibly in October.
That works.
Okay. Anybody have anything last to say before? No, I don't think so. Thank you again. Thank you all for coming. It was really nice to have a variety of towers represented and different people. And let's see, Judith, I met years and years ago and haven't seen in years and years and years. And to meet Sam was lovely. And seeing other people, as always, was very nice. So thank you all. We'll be in touch. I'll send an email to everybody who was at the courses saying, here's the recording. If you are interested, please join the email list, because that's what we're going to use in the future for communications about this kind of thing. And I will wait. It'll probably be a couple of days because we need to get the recording up and available for people if anybody wants to watch it. And then you can watch it and see what we really said. So thank you all.
Thank you, Corliss. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.